What is going on, everybody? I'm Bobby Fye with True DFS. We have a serious sweat going on. Please like and subscribe and all that stuff. This is probably going to be one of my worst shows. When you have $1 million sweat, you kind of have to be like this. It's a very, very, very tough thing to try to just do a show while I'm doing this. It's only because no one else can make it, but hopefully that shows that we're loyal. I've been with people when I was at the biggest companies that just left in these situations. I am going to probably keep this short, but I will give you my thoughts on tonight's slate. I think you're playing a minimum of two Clippers. I think you probably should go three, but two is probably your minimum number, even in a tough matchup. What's weird is that depending on what happens with marketing or whatever, I think you have a natural wanting to run back someone here. So if LeVert is out, I would run back Garland. If you're going to play 3 or 4, I would run back Mobley. Actually, even if Markkanen plays, I would run back Mobley. But I really think that's where you start, okay? The rest of the guys you're playing tonight are the same guys I was talking about earlier. Nothing's really changed from that. I like the Toronto-LA situation. I like I'm trying to look through all my lineups. I like Giannis. I want to see what happens with this late Sacramento situation. I'm just double checking that I didn't miss an update on that with Justin Holiday. And I think that we want to play I still am interested in Okongwu. I don't care that we have other value and there will be more. I think that Okongwu is actually legitimate value. Anyway, so here's where we're going.
Good afternoon, Bobby.
Wait, what's up, man? How's it going, Mark?
Good. You see Sheets is back in the top 10 too now, so we've got a double sweat in the golf.
I didn't even realize that. How many minutes time does he have left there? I'm up to third now. Let's see. He's got DJ. Oh my God, DJ went 7 under today. That's insane.
He's got 16 holes remaining. It looks like at 544.
Oh my God, that's wild. I didn't realize that Sheets was right there as well. Well, he gets to take his time off and enjoy this. Meanwhile, I'm stressing over this here. I'm rooting against Varner, and he needs Varner. Varner actually I don't really need to root against. It's just more about the positioning here. But yeah, that's wild. We have a double sweat for $1 million here between Sheets and I, and hopefully we can go 1-2 in whatever order. I love Sheets, but I hope it is me number 1.
I think that's fair. I think it's always fair to root for yourself.
Yeah. But it's anyway. Here it is.
If it can't be you, it's him. That's how we root, right? And if he says the same thing, if it can't be him, it's you. Yeah. Nobody wants Christian Harder, former poker player, to win, right? He's got enough money.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking too. And he came out of nowhere, sort of with this Keegan Bradley thing has really frustrated me. To be honest, Casey 1 and Smith 2 is sort of the better scenario for both of us. So because some people have other different combinations with Smith that we don't have. So that's sort of the nut.
So good question from Nick here. Nick Nelson asks, how can we follow this without being in the contest? In our Discord, one of our members actually posted a link to the contest. You didn't have to have played this contest to be able to bring it up on screen. So if you're not a member of our Discord, please join, but it's in the PGA channel over there.
Perfect. Yeah. And if anybody needs a link to the Discord, that's no problem. So they're asking for the link to the contest. So there, Banks is saying the same thing. So
yep, I can get it.
The NBA slate is fairly much the same. It's you play the Clippers guy early. You try to run back one Cleveland player if you want to. I would go if we have no so if we have no LeVert, I would go Garland. If we have no Markkanen or Wade, I would go Mobley. I still would go Mobley anyway without these, even if everybody plays. But Mobley would be the one I'd be most interested in if they all play, and you can throw Markkanen into that mix if he plays as well. So that's sort of your starting point. Portland, Atlanta. I'm not going to get heavily involved in this game outside of playing some Okongwu and the blowout run. That's what I'm going with on FanDuel. Eubanks, of course, makes sense, but not on DraftKings for me so much. I think playing a long shot Joel Embiid play is really clever. I think it's a spot that he gets up for. I think he'll have a big day here. So I would take a shot on something like that. Get in the
Still leaning Embiid over Jokic overall?
Yeah, I think that you could play either one of them, but I would lean Embiid over Jokic tonight specifically.
All right, you got one other question about either Boston or Kennard.
I like Boston, so I prefer. I'd like to see the starting lineup before I totally commit to that. I think Kennard is probably a little safer to get the minutes and also more streaky with the shooting, but also you have that with Boston somewhat too. So it can really go either way, but I don't know. I have a very split lean between those guys in terms of my actual lineups tonight. I really like Batum as the lower owned option of the bunch of the Clippers, by the way.
Okay.
Charlotte OKC, I think, is another game you could sort of mini stack. I think, well, you have Maladon, who's already a natural play anyway, but Shea, I think, is a strong play that's now getting a little bit overlooked. And I think Rozier is the best run back, but I don't mind LaMelo or Bridges. I think that if you wanted to take a shot with the Minnesota situation, again, depending on who plays, I would lean Cat as my top play there, and I would run it back with Murray. But I don't think that either of those are like must. Any of these, none of these are must. But that's what I'm doing with my Clipper Cleveland stacks or lineups or whatever, especially the Clipper side. Washington Golden State, I'm not touching. Chicago, Sacramento, I want to play some Caruso, we have to speculate, right? If we think Levine is out, I think you can play DeRozan or Vucevic comfortably. I'm a little bit leaning Vucevic because of the price and the lower ownership. But Caruso is the other obvious one, and then Desonmu would get another giant boost in that game. I'll answer any questions for the next little bit, but I'm just going to try and go through my thoughts first. Justin Holiday, we don't know about that. That's why stacking these later games makes a little more sense, even though I like some of the early stacks. I think playing like a Conley or a Mitchell with Giannis is a really good way to go with that value. And that's sort of what I'm doing. Then I think speculating on the Clippers-Lakers game, Van Vliet, LeBron, but you can always pivot Van Vliet if you have the right positions saved in those later games, which you should if you're playing some of these other guys who you're speculating on. You'd want to play you could switch Van Vliet to Barnes, and I still like Siakam regardless. And I think LeBron is a great play if he's playing. If he doesn't play, then you have all the other late games to decide all your picks from. So obviously LeBron, you switch to Giannis. Van Vliet, you switch to Scotty Barnes, assuming that you got position eligibility, which you should, again, if you're playing not these later games. So my idea is to try to get either a 3-1 or a 2-0 or a 3-0 for the Clippers with one of the mini stacks of Charlotte or OKC, a mini stack of Minnesota, San Antonio, but preferably I would take shots on guys like Vucevic, Giannis, Conley, and I would play some LeBron and Van Vliet and some of these guys in these later games and try to get four of my guys, maybe 5 from the later games, because those decisions are really big. And by the end of the night, I think that's the smartest way you can approach this slate. All right. Mark, do you want to pop in some more questions or anything? So
absolutely. Any Fred Van Fleet news?
We don't have news. No, we're probably not going
to be early for news, unfortunately. Waterford or Eubanks?
Watford or Eubanks? Sure. Yeah. Watford is the better play, but it shouldn't be between the two because they're different price ranges. So I would take, given the price, Eubanks, but given the guy who I like better, it'd be Watford.
So if you're playing Watford, then you're obviously paying somewhere differently to get. You're playing your other lineup differently, right?
I don't know a site where they're similar price. Maybe
no, that's what I'm saying. So You're not really comparing the two players because you're saying if you're picking that guy, you've got to go pick somebody else at a different price to fit them into your lineup the same way that you're.
Yeah, that's sort of your whole strategy changes. My general thinking there. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Giannis, your top overall play.
Giannis is. Well, like I said, it depends on all this other news. He's not my top overall. I would say Shea is a better straight up play, but you get value by playing the later game. So playing a Giannis with a low end, a cheap guy you're speculating on like Davion Mitchell, then you can always pivot to the medium range depending on how the lineups shake out for Toronto and the Lakers.
Okay.
So that would say, what was that shot by Paul Casey? Jesus, where is that?
I mean, I've got one FanDuel lineup with Giannis and Embiid together. That we'll see how that pans out as news comes in. But
on FanDuel you can definitely do that. I just to be completely honest, like whatever is happening it's so minuscule compared to these things. I'm probably just going to like eliminate and not end up playing tonight. This is everything I would do though, because I just don't think it's a good long-term, situation to play tilted when it's not like talking about $100,000 loss. You're talking about $1 million.
No. Absolutely.
There are only so many tournaments a year in a life or whatever. Whatever, not a life, but it's hard to win $1 million. There's guys I know like awesome, like for whatever, how many years max entering everything, never won $1 million in one tournament.
And this is not a poker payout table. It's not 100,000 to 500 for second. It's $1 million to 100,000 to 50,000. So top 3 is not the same as it is in other events.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it's a little stressful, to be honest with you. So let's get a few more minutes of questions. And Mark, I really appreciate you doing this. In general, you guys know me. I'm like, unless it's like a family emergency or something really happening, and I actually was supposed to have this, I postponed the birthday thing I was going to, because $1 million is $1 million. It's a very different situation. So
All
really
right,
would like to see Keegan Bradley hit the ball in the water on 17.
we got a Bazley and SGA stack. Your thoughts on stacking the two of them together?
Yeah, I think you could do it, but I would want to run back if I'm going to do that.
Okay. General rules, right? These are stuff we're going to start getting more into in some of the
Yep.
just basic learn content on the site.
Yeah,
If you're running a stack, Bobby's always looking for a run back on the other side, right? To kind of like play that narrative out, right?
Yeah, and the best way to describe it, Mark, is I wouldn't treat it in terms of salary allocated unless you're getting to more than 4 positions. But like I can call a stack like 2 players if they cost 20,000 combined. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like Karl-Anthony Towns and Murray are a great example of that tonight. So if you're going to put that much into it on one side and you're going to play 5,900 Bazley and the 10-4 of Shea, Minnesota is a high variance situation because there's all the guys, but then I would want that run back. And yeah, Trae Young might be a better play than Karl-Anthony Towns straight up. But if you're going to play those 2 guys, hoping the game stays close and they both go off, that means probably one of the 3 from the Timberwolves are going off. So I would play one of the 3 run backs, one of the main 3, Edwards, Russell, or Towns. Towns would be my favorite.
Yeah, no, and that makes perfect sense. What you got to pick what your narrative is for the game,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You set your strategy for the game, and then you say, okay, assuming that strategy happens, this is how I play my lineup, in relation to that.
That's exactly right. 100%.
Right. And we go through that so shorthand because you and Sheets have been doing this for a long time, but we've got some people that are newer, like myself, like some other members coming in. So we're going to try to find ways to, go backwards sometimes and either break these things out separately, or I'll try to interject in some of these sessions to help you guys talk through your
when you're available, you're the greatest help for that, because there's some things that maybe I don't think of and I just sort of say, but it is important that we want to try.
Right. There's not a rule that says if you play 2 guys from one team, always play a run back. Your point is much better to say if you're spending a ton of money on one team, whether that's 4 players or 2 $10,000 or $11,000 players, and why wouldn't you hope that the game plays out a certain way and then the guy on the other side becomes a much more important part of your strategy?
That's exactly right. Yeah, exactly. And it's all slate dependent too, by the way. Like if you have just like if Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday were out tonight and Giannis was playing, I would say that I don't care about the run back. I'm just playing Giannis. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or something like that. But it's really slate dependent, and we have no reason to assume anything like that. Just throwing out theoretical.
Number of games on slate matter, right? 9-game slate's different than a 4-game slate. Kind of some of those things play out.
And that's a big piece of news that Nick just dropped in. And Nick, I always appreciate people coming in and saying what's happening. Rudy Gobert intending to play, which is sort of what I expected, makes it a little bit less like you need to wait for the later games, because one of the things you were going to get was Whiteside, and that would have been an awesome play. But you don't need to worry about that, because if Gobert is intending to play, he's going to play 90+% of the time. It's probably even higher, to be honest with you, in this kind of matchup. But that's the way I would treat that information personally. So I would say that everything I just said is still relevant and viable, but it's a little bit less because of that. But then again, if you lose LaVine, you know what I mean? But it's just not quite as many guys we have to worry about so much later on.
And so Bobby, if we're making a list for later, right? You're not going to be around. The guys you're looking at that you need news on for later, if you were playing tonight, Zach LaVine obviously is important news, right?
Zach LaVine, LeBron, Fred VanVleet, those are very big ones. Either way, I like the guys on the Toronto side, so I like that speculation of maybe playing a LeBron with those guys, and then you can pivot over to all the other great plays we talked about. So there's really I don't want to say there's no risk. You might be losing out on something big by not playing these early games that I even mentioned that I like. But if you get Fred VanVleet and LeBron out, and you stack and pray in the game like that, you know what I mean? And then you middle it out to Siakam or you decide I don't want to play that game that Toronto's still going to kill the Lakers without LeBron. Then you go to Giannis or you go to the Sacramento game. All of these are still really good plays. They're just really incredible plays. If some of the guys sit, you're going to have even like just incredible plays versus really good plays.
Okay. The one on screen looks like Kispert or Richardson. Is that what I have?
I have no interest in either of those guys.
I was going to say, I was just checking my lineups to see if I ended up with any through through the optimizer. I don't think I have either of them on either site. So
They're both absolutely okay to play. I'm not playing either. I wouldn't play either of them. They're a middling tier. And look, Richardson was on my winning lineup from Friday, the last time I played. But that's a play that you make in addition to other value, but especially when there isn't a lot of value. And what you're betting on is that you're hoping that there's going to be some value a little bit later on. And if there's not, you still have good outs. That's your best one. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You're not dead if any of these things happen. You just can't make sure to do a 1v. Like, you can't have only Fred VanVleet in the late games with not 200 to spare in a utility spot where you can flip to Barnes or something. You know what I mean? That's
Yes.
the kind of thing you shouldn't do.
Right. When you're playing for these late swaps, when you're playing for news in the late games, you have to do a little bit more lineup construction to leave yourself maneuverability. You can't just hit the button on the optimizer, let it give you one late game player who's the wrong price to switch out to anybody else. Otherwise, you're giving up all that edge of having a late game situation to take advantage of.
Yep, 100%
Right?
accurate.
You got to play the plan and play.
And if there's
Nick's
any other
asking
questions,
about.
I want to answer them because I'm probably going to go in a few minutes.
Yep, real quick. So Draymond, regarding the Warriors, feel any differently with Draymond back?
I felt like I didn't want any of them, so I still don't want any of them.
Fair.
Looney is, if you get stuck, fine, but then again, you can make pivots.
Right. Probably got better options somewhere along the way.
Yep.
If you ended up with Looney as your best play, you might want to relook at your lineup construction strategy.
Yeah, but if you end up completely
or
stuck
figure out what narrative you're trying to tell.
If you're playing 5 guys in the later game and you end up with him as one of the pieces, that's not like the worst thing in the world because the other stuff doesn't break your way. But it's just not. I would never try to like target them. You don't try to build with them. You kind of hope it goes one way. Get in the freaking water, you mother. It's not going to. Anyway, that's sort of the general thoughts I have on that one.
Okay.
I do like, go back. Yeah, you're right. It could be a late scratch. You're going to have to always risk that, and there's no way to predict it. When the team doesn't know and the players don't know, when the player says they're intending to play or the team says they are, you have to treat that almost like gospel, and then you're going to be annoyed when it doesn't happen, but you can't just worry about that. Really appreciate you, Nick. A lot of nice words. Appreciate the kind words. And hopefully Sheets or I do something in this next few holes. And we'll see what happens. I mean, look, it doesn't seem like a lot of holes, but it didn't seem like a lot of holes when the first 5 holes completely changed the tournament the last 3 days either, or the last 4 days, I should say. So we'll see what happens in the last holes today. That was a big save for Lahiri. Not that he's not very relevant, but it's relevant in terms of getting the points for place position. This Dustin Johnson day that he turned in, I have no idea where this came from. Last time I looked, he was +2, like through like 8 holes. Oh my God, he just holed another one. So Sheets might just jump up right there. Wow. On 18 for an eagle? Oh my God. That's going to be big for Sheets. I don't know what's happening with everybody else he's got, but that's a big one for Sheets. Any FT specifics? Dunbar, I'll just go through it real quick. I think the Giannis, Conley, LeBron with the Clippers guys is sort of what I would do. And and then I would also speculate on the Toronto situation, but you don't even need to speculate because I would play Gary Trent and Siakam anyway, even if everybody's healthy. So I would play those guys with the other late game, Giannis, Conley, with Clippers guys, and that's pretty much where my builds are. You can throw in a Brandon Williams if you want to. Sorry.
Quick question on how many lineups did you end up playing in that PGA event?
I played 40 in the $25. No, like 30 something or 40. I don't know, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
All right.
I think that winds up most of the questions.
All right. Well, guys, I really appreciate all you guys. You guys are great. Mark, really appreciate you. This show is always better when you do it. Sorry for the weird timing and weird everything today. It's just, you're going to have one of these come up every now and then. And I think that everybody understands the million sweat, and I appreciate all the nice words in Discord and the personal message.
Yeah, and again, everyone's in Discord, so if it's not Bobby, Rody will be around, and other people will be around to help try to answer questions if you've got lineup questions. Like I said, it's good for you guys to work together too, ask each other questions, build ideas together, build narratives together, figure out what your game plan is, and then just try to execute it.
Yep, absolutely, totally agree. All right, guys. Well, let's crush it. Good luck to everybody. And I hope somebody takes down a really big one. Thanks a lot, Mark. And good luck tonight, everybody. Let's